Hi everyone, my name is Radek Kaczynski and I'm from Bouncer. We came here with Jacob, our CMO, from Poland, where together with amazing team we're building email verification solution and like deliverability suite for email. And today I wanted to talk about like a bit more philosophical aspects about the email deliverability. So making sure that we all want our emails to land in the inboxes, and probably we might hear about some hacks, about some best practices, but I wanted to put it slightly in more, let's say, holistic approach to email deliverability and talk also with this aspect of philosophical thing. And yeah, it's gonna be present. I do have slides, but we can chat. We can ask questions. We can talk about our experiences in email if you guys wish. We've got plenty of time, so we should be fine. Okay. So at Bouncer, we truly believe in dialogue, and that great things happen when people do communicate. And well, obviously, we're in the email business, so we believe that email is a powerful communication channel. But if you've been to my yesterday's presentation, I hope I did prove that that email actually may deliver the results, and is amazing channel for just having a dialogue with our customers, with our partners, with our potential customers. But email does have challenges, like actually every single channel. Studies show that 20% of email addresses actually do not reach, like send out globally, excluding the spam, the pure spam. They don't reach to the recipients, and that's because of many factors, like first of all, like invalid email addresses, but also the challenges with the deliverability itself. And undeliverable email means essentially lost opportunity to exchange the thoughts, goods, talents, value that we provide. Plus, when the email address itself is undeliverable, or there's undeliverable email, it also affects our deliverability. And I'm gonna touch on that in a moment a little bit more. So, deliverability. If we would Google it, or if we would, ask the ChatGPT about what to do in order to get the best deliverability, we're going to see that there's many factors affecting it, starting from like infrastructure, meaning the reputation of the infrastructure, its authentication, the practices in the email sendouts, like context management, like control of volumes that we send, monitoring and reacting, and finally the messages itself. So whether this is personalized and actually message that resonates with our audience, and also the content itself and the form of the content of the messages that we send is super important. And as much as I am, let's say, a quick learner, I'm also like quick forgetter, so I would never, memorize all of those factors. And it is complex. There are also like interconnections between all those factors. So I was trying to grasp that while working at Bouncer, doing email verification, also doing like some email deliverability aspects. And what was missing for me was like something that is there, like some pattern, something that might help me memorize and understand truly what is deliverability, email deliverability about. So at some point it just came to me that an empathy and respect might be something that we could, just put around all the aspects. And by empathy and respect, I mean the empathy and respect towards humans, like our recipients, but also the infrastructure, the servers, caring about our own resources, but also caring about someone else's resources by sending, proper emails and generating the traffic over the network. So that empathy and respect, I believe, will, when we act in all of our operations, having that in mind, will at one point result with resonance with our audience, and on the other hand, will also increase and improve our sender reputation. And we're going to touch about that, of course, later on as well. Things that do, I believe, have effect on the resonance is, of course, the content and the form of the messages that we send, but also the recipients management. So to whom do we send and when do we send some particular messages to our audience? And on this right side of the equation, the reputation has the factors like the infrastructure. Obviously, this is a very important aspect, but also email practices. So we're gonna, during this presentation, we're gonna be kind of playing around with this map and try to touch on many of those factors. And by the way, as I said, at any point, just feel free to interrupt, and we can chat, we can exchange some experiences, we can try to answer some questions, and of course I'm going to have some stories as well to prove some of my points. So let's start on the right side of the equation, the reputation. So the sender reputation is like any other reputation, meaning, you know, humane reputation. It takes time to build it because we need to, you know, prove that we are worthy of trust of someone. We need to constantly prove that we're delivering the value to both to the peoples and essentially the, you know, the servers, email servers that kind of protect our recipients' time and energy and focus. And that kind of reputation is relatively easy to be lost. Like if we make some mistakes, like bigger mistakes, there's chances that indeed we're going to have, we're going to deal with some deliverability, email deliverability challenges. So let's start with the infrastructure. By saying that we need to, you know, respect and care, respect the infrastructure, I mean that we need to care about our own resources, so kind of protect them. We're going to talk about that in a bit, and also respect others' resources. Probably in email, it is a commodity. We are all used to sending emails, and rarely we ask ourselves how does it work. But essentially, there's a traffic network, traffic over the network of our messages being sent, transmitted, and delivered to the inboxes, and it takes the resources. So, anti-spam filters, or in general, email service providers, they need to protect their own resources, like computing power or the network transfers, but also want to protect their recipients, their time and focus, so that they don't get, spammy messages. And believe me or not, but essentially, something that we see in our mailboxes, it's probably like a couple % of what actually was sent to our inboxes. There's a ton of spam that actually is being blocked and stopped by our email service providers to protect us from, swamped mailboxes. So this is a very difficult task for the anti-spam filters to decide, which message should be delivered to the inbox and which should be blocked or put to the spam folder. So the infrastructure. Of course, if we dive deep into that, there's going to be a lot of good tactics. Probably, we can talk about that, after the presentation. But what is important to point out that the infrastructure should be properly and wisely chosen. So we need to know what kind of communication do we do over email. Is it, for example, cold outreach? If it's a cold outreach, there are tools and there's a certain setups for doing that kind of outreach that will maximize the probability that we're going to be reaching out to our recipients. If we're doing marketing, a lot of marketing, there are specific tools for marketing for e-commerce, specific tools for marketing, email marketing for SaaS or B2B businesses. So choosing wisely the setup is important, and align it with actually what are our needs in that kind of communication. And sometimes the tech stack may be a little bit more complex. Like we may use one tool for doing our marketing with our current base of customers, and utilizing other solutions for doing an outreach when we want to reach out to the people that never heard about us. A second super important thing is authentication. Like if you might be, just observing what was happening last year, what Google and Yahoo announced, they started actually enforcing some best practices about the authentication. So there are those three acronyms, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, but essentially there's a technology that helps us protect our identity, like in the email. So we're just setting up SPF, DKIM, and DMARC in order to make sure that no one can impersonate us and send emails pretending that they are us. And this is super important essentially for the, let's say, protection of our brands, protect of our reputation, but also is very important aspect for deliverability. Because when someone receives an email from us and they check that, yeah, there's an SPF, DMARC, DKIM, they know that it was us who sent it. So there's a higher probability they will inbox it, they will put it in the inbox, they will not reject it. And since last year, if we are sending thousands of emails a day, then essentially it's a must, because the Google, Yahoo, and nowadays Microsoft also announced they were going to be doing the same. They would just reject the messages, or start rejecting at least parts of the messages. And finally, if it comes to setup of an infrastructure, and it's kind of about caring about our reputation, is also setting up some feedback loops. So for example, signing up for Google Postmaster, just to see how Google perceives our traffic and have the visibility. For example, someone was reporting our messages as spam, or if the reputation of our domain, of our IP addresses is proper. So yeah, this is the infrastructure. Now, the question, if you guys have any questions or would like to talk about that, before I go to the one of the examples. No pressure. No pressure. At any point, just interrupt me. So the true story, essentially, believe it or not, but like us doing the email verification, we are super prone to all sorts of cyber criminals and frauds, phishers, hackers that want to use our own technology in order to clean the list so that they can phish credit cards from people's. So we've been fighting them for a very long time, and this is like another part of our kind of activities that we do. And they find amazing, actually, and they've got amazing ideas how to abuse our anti-fraud, anti-abuse solutions that we implemented ourselves. So when they couldn't do that, basically they started also some social engineering activities, and they wanted to impersonate. They've been trying to impersonate, for example, myself, sending out messages to my colleagues in the team, and you can imagine, like on Sunday evening, someone sends a message that, for example, hey Agnes, I've got a super important task for you. Could you jump in here, click, or reset your password or whatsoever? So because we actually implemented SPF, DKIM, and DMARC on our all domains that we use, they are not able to impersonate me, exactly me. They've been trying to do that using some look-alike domains, or try to find that, but of course we trained our colleagues not to click there. But this is a relatively normal practice. They've been trying also to do that the same for our customers. For example, they scraped the G2 or Capterra, identified the list of our customers that left the testimonials and reviews on G2, so that then they were trying to actually reach out to them on our behalf to reset their password or whatsoever. So they, in order to take their credits and in order to potentially also steal their data that were on our platform. So the DKM and DMARC, of course, it's an extreme situation, but we all should strive and try to protect our own identity, and this will result in much better deliverability in general, because the email world will know that when we send something, it's actually us. So, so yeah, that's the part about caring and respecting the infrastructure, ours and someone else's. Now, the email practices, super important aspects here. Some tips. Well, first of all, we should not exploit someone else's resources, and we should not. Yeah, we should also care about our own resources. And here are, for example, aspects like volumes of the emails that are being sent from us. So essentially, like for the whole email ecosystem, predictability and consistency is super important. This is mostly because of allocating the resources for the email traffic on the server side, but also identifying the off situations. It is when usually the spammers, for example, what they do, they purchase a domain and they send as much emails as possible during a very short period of time. So there are spikes in the traffic. So if for some reason we would be sending also in spikes, and many of us do that, like if we are not doing like constant email marketing aspects, we might do like, I don't know, like Black Friday deals once a year. And there's so many brands out there that actually send a huge amount of the emails just in a very short period of time. And this traffic looks essentially like the traffic from spammers. That's why, like servers of our recipients were not prepared for a ton of emails. So decided to block it or slow it down or defer actually delivering the message. So predictability and consistency of the volumes that we send is super important. That's why actually it is good to implement a little bit more complex marketing plans, marketing strategies, so that we are sending out through the whole year relatively consistently. And of course there will be spikes, because there will be spikes. Usually like we're going to be sending to most engaged segments of our customers, and once a year, a couple of times in the year, we're going to want to increase the number of the recipients to which we send out the messages. But having like a stable flow with smaller spikes is super important to make sure that our emails are reaching the inboxes when we want them to be reached. Also, a very important practice is respecting the feedback. So if someone, for example, if some postmaster would contact us on our abuse@company.com email, it is important to react to that, because it's usually a human being actually sending out the information that we did something off. And by engaging in that kind of dialogue in corrective actions might only help us with protecting our deliverability. So honoring the improvement suggestions is super important. And lastly, preventing bounces. Of course, we are email verification solution. This is one of the ways to prevent the bounces, but there are also other ways to like suppress usually our email service providers are doing that for us. Marketing platforms are already suppressing the bounces, but preventing and reacting to the bounced emails is important. Sometimes it is important also to see why was the bounce there. Was it because the email address doesn't exist anymore because someone changed their job, or is it because actually it was identified as a potential spam, and there usually are some information. So looking at that kind of information from time to time or on a continuous basis is very important. Looking at Google Postmaster feedback loops or Microsoft feedback loops is also very handy. Might sound a little bit tricky, but it's it's easier than we might think it is. Listening to the feedback from actually the world that is receiving messages from us can be done in multiple ways, like via metrics. We can observe, the open rates. Of course, the open rates have always been skewed. Like they've been skewed by the fact that Microsoft Outlook usually does not show, well, in some enterprise setup does not show them images immediately. Someone has to click, get the images. Apple at the same time is caching all the images already when they are received by Apple servers in order to show it much better on different devices. But essentially, it looks like every single email is opened by the Apple. Of course, there's already some ways to identify whether this was a bot open or was it a manual human being open of the email. As well, anti-spam filters open the emails. They even click the links just to see what's behind the links. So, looking at the metrics, like explicitly at the numbers probably is not it will not give us the full picture, but observing the trends, like if we know that usually our audience is opening, like 40% of our audience is opening our emails because it's relatively engaged audience, and then we see a drop after 1 or 2 campaigns that only 10% or 20% opened our emails, that might be an indication that there is something wrong with our deliverability. Maybe our emails started to be positioned in the spam folder or in the promotional tab on Google, and we sent to, let's say, Google users. So that kind of indications of any anomalies in the metrics might be an indication that there's something to be done in terms of deliverability. Also the signals, like, engagement signals, positive engagement, like people clicking through, going to our website, making the purchase or whatever, signing up or interacting with our, let's say, application or solution is a very positive signal. But there are also, let's say, negative signals, like unsubscribe. Of course, there will be always unsubscribes, and it's much better to get an unsubscribe than report as spam. But those signals also is something to observe and act on that, and think about, okay, why did this, let's say, campaign resulted in much higher amount of unsubscribe messages, or why at this particular time in Google Postmaster we see that people have started reporting us as spam when they haven't been before. So maybe there was something, misaligned in our messaging. And the direct feedback, like it is super important. Still it's kind of surprising that many brands, like big enterprise brands, are sending emails from do not reply email address. Like this is the best way to prevent yourself from hearing a feedback. I would say that, well, it's not a best practice. Like let's put a name. Well, we can send from the, let's say, functional mailbox, or we can send from mailboxes of our people. But let's not make it do not reply, because we want to hear back. And I'm gonna probably share one story in a bit. And finally, being connected with some email folks, email geeks, is a good thing. If you are investing in email marketing, there are pretty cool communities like email geeks or women of email out there that are there to help. There are like forums of email operators. So there is a ton of possibilities. Let's remember that postmasters are actual human beings that are there to protect, their customers, and they are approachable. Of course, not everyone will have a contact to a postmaster of Google, but if we are in a community, if email is an important channel for our communication, it's worth to have, someone to reach out to. Maybe they will be able to connect, to help, to protect us. Or at least help us to, recover from some small problems in the deliverability. This is like a true story. Actually, there have been over the years, I've seen many of those stories. That there were brands that, as I said, were never sending any emails, or were rarely sending any emails. And out of the blue, they figured, hey, yeah. email is a potentially good channel, and we've got like, I don't know, 6 million email addresses in our database. Let's shoot them the campaign that we've got a really cool promotion. So there was this story, well, we ourselves had a really cool story of a pizza chain that was thriving essentially during the pandemic because everyone was ordering pizza in the US because they couldn't go to restaurants. And then when the pandemic ended, and then all Americans wanted to go to restaurants, so no one was ordering pizza. So they figured, okay, we've got 6 million email addresses in our database, basically used only for transactional emails. You know, your order is going there. So they were planning to start sending actually marketing materials like pizza of the month, pizza of the week promo, like Friday pizza or whatever. And well, they've been actually educated by someone, so they initially came to us and cleaned the list and then started really good ramp up and really good strategy. But there was the story of another American brand that I've seen on the forum of email operators. A lady essentially just blasted her email list with really good and valuable information, and it was really solid, like a marketing campaign. But it was like, and it was before the Black Friday, so there was a really short period of time that she had in order to say about the really cool promotion that they had, and it was immediately blocked by all the email service providers. On Google, it was just rejected, not even put it in spam folder. It was just rejected from the communication. Microsoft also did the same. So she was connected in the community. She reached out to the folks, and like within 1-2 days, basically the email geeks connected the postmasters of Google and whitelisted their infrastructure, and she was able to actually send it out to people. And of course, later on, she was kind of educated that, well, this is not the best way to do things. How am I on time? Because I see that I've got 2 minutes, but 2 minutes. Okay.
You have 1 hour.
Oh, I have 1 hour.
You have half an hour.
Oh, okay. I started to be stressed. Yeah. So this is the part. This is the part about the reputation, the more infrastructure, resources-based aspects. Now we can move on to the left side of the equation and talk about the resonance and a couple of aspects there, and how as well empathy and respect is super important if it comes to humans, and if it comes to how we interact with humans instead of the infrastructure that is there. So I really believe that we will be getting in email the resonance if the messages that we send actually are aligned with our customers' needs, if the context is there, and that when we will be delivering on promise. So, for example, if we are subscribing our recipients on, subscription form, for example, for our newsletter, and we specifically then say that this is good, there's going to be no sales on the newsletter, right? It's going to be just a knowledge, and it's going to be related to our core business. Then changing the context and not delivering on promise might be risky, because they might be surprised. They might feel, okay, I wasn't respected. Like, I signed up for here to hear about, I don't know, like best practices in email deliverability, and suddenly I start to get messages about, I don't know, like TikTok strategies or whatsoever, pushing for sales for a new cool tool on the TikTok. So they might be surprised. So if we are, of course, we can do it respectfully. Like, we can send out the message campaign, say that this is really cool. If you want to sign up on another newsletter, please do. If you want to also hear about our promotions, please do. Or we can, if we already know that we're going to be doing both, like educational materials and promotional materials about our context, then we can specifically say what kind of communication they may expect from us. In a worst, let's say not a worst case scenario, if we wouldn't do that, or if someone is surprised, they will unsubscribe. It's good also to have the possibility to unsubscribe from specific types of communication. So not unsubscribing from all the emails from us, but let's say promotional emails or emails about this topic, emails about this topic. So if we have the possibility to segment that, so in order to align what we, what we are sending with their needs, it's cool. And the unsubscribe, as I said, is not as bad as report as spam, ultimately. So not having hidden intention is also kind of a respectful thing and empathetical thing. And if we do that, essentially we're going to be building and fostering the community around us, because it's all about humans, right? Regardless whether we are in B2B or B2C, it's all human-to-human communication. So having that in mind is, I believe, important aspect. And if it comes to more practical things, yeah, I just mentioned about the human-to-human. The content and the form is important aspect. So we should strive on maximizing the value of our recipients. Just being empathetical. Okay, what do they want to get from us, right? What kind of information they might be interested in getting from us. And if we maximize the value of the messages, of course, in our email marketing, it's easier. They already opted in. If we are doing cold email because we need to expose a little bit more, part of the world to what we've got to offer, and we don't have the ability to build like more sophisticated marketing channels, then we definitely need to maximize the probability that when they get a message from us, they will feel at least that, hey, this is something interesting. I'm not interested in this moment, but at least this is not like, abusing my time and attention. So maximizing the value is super important, respecting the time and energy of our recipients when they get the message, when they spend the couple of seconds or a minute on reading the message is important aspect. And by also kind of delivering on promise, let's not play around with the catchy subject lines that will actually have nothing to do with what we are actually sending, because that may just build a frustration. So it all should be like, just focusing on what someone might get from reading our messages. The form itself should be of I believe it should be of the highest quality possible. Of course, that we can afford, because let's not overdo some things. But it should have a highest quality both for the humans and for machines that protect those humans' time and energy. So by saying high quality, well, first of all, it should be like clean. Well, maybe, yeah, probably I'll have it here. It should be clean and clear, meaning the message should be readable. The form should be also accessible, like having in mind that people might be colorblind, or there will be some humans that have like in general problems with reading. So building messages or using the solutions that will help us build the messages that, for example, could be read by the accessibility features or tools will be important, like having the alt for alternative text for our pictures, because there's a solid part of the, let's say, society that has the problems with reading, with seeing, so let's not stop ourselves from delivering to them the value that we've got to deliver. Also aspects like clean HTML, we're going to talk about that during the example I'm going to show you, is also important for the machines, so that they can actually read the message, identify that it's not spam easily. The balance between content and media, meaning text and the pictures, also should be respectful and empathetical. For example, well, first of all, we can see sometimes messages with just one picture, with all the context on the JPEG that is included in the message. This is not a best practice. I don't know why, but at some point people started doing that. Definitely, it was spammers who first started sending the messages this way, when the anti-spam filters were super super easy and were just looking at only at the spam words. So when the spam filter was looking at, let's say, promotion, free, or get something in the best deal, and checking the, let's say, a condensation of that kind of, let's say, spam words, then the spammers started to just put it on the picture and send it on the picture so that the machine cannot read the text because it's a picture. Nowadays it's different, but first of all, that kind of message takes more size. That's one thing, and the other, so it takes more resources. Another thing is it kind of is similar to the messages sent by spammers, so that's why most likely it's going to have deliverability problems. And finally, we are then also preventing ourselves from delivering to the people who are, for example, in remote locations or reading emails on mobile phones. So definitely, if some part of our audience, let's say we're having a business for people who work remotely and usually look at the, let's say, at the phone when the coverage, cellular coverage is not really good, let's just condense that in the text messages only. Let's limit the amount of the graphical aspects and the pictures sent there. Or if we do need to send a picture, let's make sure that it has a proper size, small size. It's going to be very easy to be downloaded in the remote location. So again, an empathy and thinking about where my customers will be reading the message and who are my customers is super important. Another thing is links that work. I mean, sometimes everyone sends, let's say, a link in the message that will be broken, and it happens. Of course, always things happen, but it is a good thing to check if the links that we put in our messages are the correct ones. First of all, so that our customers are not frustrated that we've been saying, hey, click here in order to, let's say, get some free credits at Bouncer, and then they cannot do that because the link is broken. That's one thing. But from the other hand, also the anti-spam filters are looking at the links and where they direct, and that may also affect our ability to deliver and our deliverability. And as I said, the unsubscribe option is as well super important thing. So, true story with the dirty HTML. One of our investors had problems with deliverability. And they reached out to me and said, hey, Radek, it seems like you know this stuff. Could you help me? Because it seems like my messages are landing in spam recently. Like I'm creating a new fund and I wanted to reach out to really cool entrepreneurs, new startups with the information that we might be interested in investing, but no one is replying, no one is receiving my messages. It seems like my friends told me that this message landed in spam. So we tried to look at that, and they had a really good reputation. They didn't send huge volumes, and it was relatively predictable. It was like, I don't know, maybe 100 messages a month. So this is a tiny number comparing to other senders, but still the messages were landing in spam. So we used something that we've got in the platform, which is called like deliverability test, or it's called also seed test. Essentially, you're sending a message to objective mailboxes that we will generate, and the solution will show you if it landed in inbox, in spam, or in promotional tab. This is something that we haven't built ourselves. We've got a partner, so we are like embedding it in a very simple form. But it's powerful at least to test the deliverability and see where might be the issues. And we've been observing the message, and it was relatively clean when a human being was looking at it. Of course, it had a little bit too many links in there because they were referring other founders that already, they invested and they put the links to LinkedIn. And at that very moment, there were a lot of scams about the LinkedIn URLs, so the anti-spam filters were a little bit more dialed against it, but it wasn't the main problem. So we basically did a couple of tests. First, asked them to send like a pure message, just a simple message, text message, hey, this is test, and then his, let's say, his footer. and it was landing in the main inbox. Then I asked him to send a little bit more, and then to send again the message that they were sending, and it was landing in spam. So we had to just take a look at the code of the HTML, and we were very surprised to see it was like super dirty. There was like within one sentence, the font was being changed. So I asked them, hey, how did you, by the way, build this message? Like, you're sending from Gmail, right? And he said, yeah, I basically wrote it in Word, Microsoft Word, copy and pasted it, and send it. And of course, for him, for human eyes, it looked the same, right? Like in the Word. But the whole HTML that was created was just super dirty. And just by typing it again, the whole message again in Google, in Gmail, again, let them inbox immediately. So this is, of course, this is extreme situation, but people do still copy and paste from Word because it's easier, right? And it is convenient, but the HTML that is going to be copied might get some off messaging, and it might have a ton of different styles in there, and anti-spam filters might not like that. So just a tip: don't copy and paste from Word. It's maybe from text edit or like Notepad. It's pure text, so it's going to be much better. But Word is probably not the best source. Yeah. So another aspect about about our practices towards humans is managing our recipients, and one of that is wise segmentation. And by wise, of course, we could go super sophisticated, like create dozens of segments of our customers interested in this feature, interested in that offering, interested in that that kind of information, with that kind of demographics, with that kind of locations. We can get really sophisticated, but sometimes it might be overdone. But it is important indeed to know in what context did we meet in the online, meaning where's the source of our relationship, and or what were they initially interested in when they established communication with us, how they were engaged with our messages, with what kind of type of communication they resonated with them well and what not. It is good to so the segmentation is important aspect, and it's an aspect that may help us, again, aligning what we are sending with the needs of our customers, especially if those needs are, let's say, different. If we're delivering the solution or services or products that might be to different types of industries, like when we are industry agnostic, maybe aligning that and creating that segmentation could be a good idea. And I'll show you an example of where we kind of screwed up ourselves in terms of segmentation. So then it is good to have a holistic approach on all stages, all phases of our relationship in digital. So, when we just met in online, meaning someone subscribed to us or started using our solution, there's going to be slightly different communication flying around to them than when this is our, a long-term loyal customer that already knows is a powerful user, etc. There will be different types of communication when we want to re-engage someone because they stopped using, or we want to, we know that they churned, but let's say within a year we implemented a lot of really cool features they might be interested in. Maybe having that kind of different campaigns for specific users might be a good thing to be done. And the continuous hygiene. Continuous holistic hygiene of the list is very important. When we talk with deliverability experts, they usually say that 97% deliverability issues come from dirty lists. And this is this kind of shocks us still because, I told you here about all the complexities, but our deliverability experts say that usually when someone reaches them and they start working with the issues, first thing that they do is cleaning the list of contacts. And not only cleaning the list from undeliverable email addresses, especially in B2B space, around 15–20% of email addresses get obsolete within 1 year because of people changing jobs. Mostly, so the personal rotation. And of course, if we're not doing that on the high volumes, it's relatively still safe. It's a natural thing. Email anti-spam filters know that. But if we, for example, wouldn't be sending for a year, and right now we want to again send a message to our whole database, probably like 15–20% of emails might bounce because people change jobs, especially in some specific industries where the personal rotation is higher. Also, making sure that we have like some prevention solutions on the, let's say, subscription forms or registration forms that will stop from stop the ability of undeliverable email address, a typo on the form in the real time, that will block, for example, bots, or will block like malicious agents that want to like plant a seed, spam trap on our lists. This might be a good thing. One thing obviously is like double opt-in. So when someone subscribes to us on our registration form, we send them the message with the link, activation link. This is helpful. However, some of us might want to like reduce the friction in the whole funnel, in the registration flow. So we want to give to the users the experience as soon as possible, as early on, with the best experience, so that they can take a look at our solution immediately without just risking that they will not get the activation link or they will forget about activating it. There's some small, let's say, conversion influence of double opt-in. It's relatively small, but it is. So we might want to do that. If we are doing that, maybe putting email verification, like we call it bouncer shield. We've got a product for that. Putting on our registration forms is a cool thing to do, just to prevent undeliverable email addresses at the moment of entry, because someone will just immediately get the information. Hey, this is, let's say, undeliverable email address, or we are accepting only business email addresses here. Would you mind changing it or correcting it? But later on, during the stages, as I said, reacting to bounces, suppressing the bounce back email addresses is an important thing, or regular cleanup utilizing solutions like ours might be a good thing. So knowing and understanding each other, capturing the correct information, not only contact information, but also like a context information, whatever might be needed in order to align the message, and then also identification of the changes. So when the email got undeliverable, this is one indication, but if someone started to be interested in something different than we initially were communicating, might be a good thing as well. And again, having in mind like a customer, being empathetic and try to think of what they want to receive from us and when is important. And again, emphasizing the dealing with pauses. So the unsubscribe requests. It's no-brainer. We should have in our email, not even hidden, but just very visible, usually at the bottom, right? But we want to cater the information, the most information in our messaging on top, but have it not hidden, have it available. The unsubscribe option, I would recommend the unsubscribe, not just immediately not unsubscribe from all communication. We might have like two links. One, unsubscribe from all communication, and one, go to preference center to decide what kind of emails do you want to receive from us. This is a really good thing because it will help us. Actually capture that someone is not interested in some specific information from messages from us or the whole communication. But it is important to let them possibility to resubscribe, because usually, and this is something that sometimes when we are implementing unsubscribe option, we forget about the fact that maybe at some moment this particular person might be interested to hear from us again. Let's consider that as a pause, not a stop of the relationship. So let's at least check if they will be able to resubscribe to communication of ours again in the future, and it's not going to be just blocking them because they once unsubscribed. So let's treat our subscribers as our community. let's segment them properly and maximize the value, something that I'm probably over-expressing here, but it is super important. So, true story about the segmentation. How we actually screwed up with the lack of proper segmentation. So we've got actually, like we are industry agnostic. There's different ICPs, ideal customer personas, that use us. And one of them, very strong, very important, that we started with was the email marketing automation platforms, sales automation platforms, CRMs, because we believe that email verification should never exist, and if it does, it should be seamless, or let's say something that we've been advocating is that email verification should be a part of email marketing platform, should be a part inside the email, let's say, sales automation platform, inside the CRM. And we've got a pretty solid customer base this way. Of course, we are as well providing the services to marketers themselves, to salespeople themselves, to agencies, etc. So we've got different types of ICPs. But at some point, we haven't been segmenting it properly. And for example, one of my first customers, loyal customers, from like, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, that we landed 8 years ago, suddenly sends me an email, "Hey Radek, seriously, you're sending me messages that you just integrated with my competitor." And well, that is interesting, but I don't want to, not necessarily I'm so happy to hear that you are right now building a sophisticated integration with my competitor. This is definitely, important for some of your customers, but this is a bit off. And there were like 2 or 3 situations like that Adam, because his name is Adam, sent to me, and that was, just so it was showing, okay, yeah. Thank you for caring about us and sharing this feedback, because sharing is caring. Thank you for letting me know instead of being frustrated, because you're not the only one. We've got a really close relationship we had for years, so you cared enough to tell me about it. But definitely there's hundreds of customers that might feel the same, but they just didn't let me know, right? So the segmentation, understanding the ICPs and maybe segmenting that properly, especially if you've got multiple ICPs, is a really good and handy thing. So that's the whole picture, and I hope that I was able to convince you that the respect may be in the center of email deliverability, and that when we are going to be respecting each other, when we're going to respect our time, attention, and energy, when we're going to be respecting and caring for our resources, the high deliverability will come. Thank you so much. If we're not yet connected, here's my LinkedIn QR code. If you would have any questions after the conference, just let me know.